The fire alarm screams through Riverside Apartments at 3:47 a.m., jolting everyone from sleep. Thick black smoke pours under doors, and panicked voices echo through hallways as flames race up the building's east wall. Children are crying, people are trapped, and the nearest fire station is 12 minutes away. In apartment 2B, 81-year-old Arthur Bulldog Martinez opens his eyes and immediately knows this isn't a drill. The same tenants who called him useless and demanded his eviction just hours ago are about to discover that the broke old man they wanted gone is the only person in this burning building who knows how to save their lives. Before we dive into this incredible rescue story, hit that subscribe button if you believe our heroes deserve respect no matter their age. And drop a comment below. Have you ever misjudged someone completely? Let's honor these unsung heroes together. Now here's what happened next. The horror began with an electrical fire in apartment 4C that spread faster than anyone imagined possible. By the time the smoke detectors activated, flames were already climbing the building's wooden frame and racing through old ventilation systems. Arthur Martinez jolted awake to the piercing alarm and immediately smelled the acrid smoke seeping under his door. His 30 years of firefighting experience told him this was no minor kitchen fire. This was a structure fire spreading rapidly through a building full of sleeping people. In the hallway, chaos erupted. People stumbled from their apartments, in pajamas and panic, coughing as smoke filled the corridors. A woman screamed from the 4th floor that she couldn't get her door open. Children were crying somewhere in the darkness as emergency lighting flickered and failed. Arthur was heading to the mailbox when he encountered a crowd gathered in the lobby. Derek stood in the center, addressing the other tenants like he was running a town hall meeting. Derek held up a clipboard with complaints. Residents, we need to discuss the situation with the tenant in 2B. Multiple people have reported concerns about his ability to maintain basic hygiene and property standards. Young woman in a business suit nodded eagerly. I've seen him wearing that same dirty jacket every day. It smells like smoke and makes the whole hallway reek. A college student joined in. Plus he moves so slowly on the stairs. It's like he's deliberately blocking traffic. Some of us have jobs and classes to get to. Arthur stopped at the edge of the crowd, his face burning with embarrassment. He wanted to turn around and retreat to his apartment, but Derek had already spotted him. Perfect timing. Derek announced loudly, "Here's the man we're discussing. Arthur, these residents have legitimate concerns about your impact on their living experience." The crowd turned to stare at Arthur like he was some kind of exhibit. He clutched his old jacket tighter, feeling smaller under their judgmental gazes. Derek continued his public humiliation. "Arthur, you're 3 weeks behind on rent. Your apartment reportedly smells like old smoke, and multiple tenants have complained about your slow movement in common areas. Frankly, I'm questioning whether you're capable of independent living." Man in expensive gym clothes stepped forward. "Look, nothing personal against the old guy, but this is supposed to be a nice complex. We pay good money to live here, and we shouldn't have to deal with someone who clearly can't take care of himself." More voices joined the pile-on. Someone mentioned calling social services. Another suggested adult protective services. They talked about Arthur like he wasn't standing right there, discussing his fitness for independent living like he was a broken appliance to be replaced. Derek pulled out an official-looking document. "Arthur, I've prepared a 30-day notice. Given your financial difficulties and the complaints from other residents, I think it's time you considered assisted living or some other arrangement more suitable to your current capabilities." Arthur's hand shook slightly as he looked at the eviction notice. He'd lived in this building for 8 years, had never caused real trouble, always tried to be a good neighbor despite his struggles. The business suit woman spoke up again. "Honestly, it's probably for the best. He obviously can't handle living independently anymore. At his age, with his obvious health problems, he should be somewhere with professional care. The college student added fuel to the fire. And maybe somewhere that doesn't have stairs to navigate. He's like a safety hazard moving that slowly. Arthur felt completely defeated. These people didn't know anything about him beyond what they saw. An old man with limited money and health problems. They had no idea about the lives he'd saved, the families he'd helped, the 30 years he'd spent running toward danger while others ran away. Derek was building toward his final point when the building's fire alarm suddenly pierced. The air with its sharp, urgent sound. Everyone looked around confused. The building had monthly tests, but this wasn't scheduled. The alarm continued its relentless warning, echoing through the lobby and hallways. That's when they smelled it. Smoke. Drifting down from the upper floors. Derek fumbled for his radio, trying to contact maintenance. The residents started talking nervously among themselves, unsure whether this was a drill or real emergency. Arthur's demeanor changed instantly. His 30 years of training kicked in as he sniffed the air, analyzing the smoke's intensity and source. This wasn't a kitchen fire or minor electrical problem. This was serious. He pushed through the confused crowd toward the stairwell, his movements suddenly more purposeful and urgent. The slow, shaky old man had transformed into someone with clear mission and authority. Derek called after him. "Arthur, where are you going? We need to wait for the fire department." Arthur turned back briefly, his voice carrying new command. "The smoke is coming from the 4th floor, east side. Based on the smell and color, it's a structure fire, not just a minor incident. The fire department is at least 10 minutes out, and people are going to be trapped." He started up the stairs, moving faster than anyone had seen him move in months. His bad knees protested, but his experience overrode the pain. The business suit woman called out in panic. "What is he doing? He's going to get himself killed." By the 2nd floor, Arthur could hear people shouting from above. The smoke was getting thicker, and his trained nose told him the fire was spreading fast. He pulled out his cell phone and called 911, giving them detailed information about the fire's location and likely spread pattern based on what he was observing. On the 3rd floor, he encountered a young mother with 2 small children, all 3 of them coughing and frightened. The woman recognized Arthur from the hallways, but had never spoken to him before. "The stairwell is filling with smoke," she gasped. "I don't know if we can make it down." Arthur immediately took charge. "Stay low, cover the children's faces with anything you have. I'm going to guide you down, and I need you to trust me completely." He led them carefully through the smoke-filled stairway, using techniques he'd learned decades ago to navigate dangerous conditions. His voice stayed calm and reassuring, telling the children they were going on an adventure and needed to be brave explorers. When they reached the lobby safely, the crowd that had been mocking Arthur minutes earlier stared in amazement. He'd moved through that smoke like he owned it, bringing a family to safety while the rest of them stood around confused and helpless. But Arthur wasn't finished. He immediately headed back up the stairs. Derek tried to stop him. "Arthur, you can't go back up there. You're not trained for this." Arthur paused just long enough to make eye contact. "Derek, I spent 30 years with the fire department. I am trained for this." He disappeared back into the stairwell, heading toward the upper floors where more people were trapped. On the 4th floor, the smoke was much thicker. Arthur found an elderly man in a wheelchair, completely unable to evacuate on his own. The man was panicking, certain he was going to die in his apartment. Arthur didn't hesitate. He lifted the frail man from his wheelchair and began carrying him toward the stairs. At 81 years old, with arthritis and bad knees, Arthur carried another human being down 4 flights of stairs through dangerous smoke conditions. By the time he emerged with the 2nd rescue, fire trucks were arriving. The professional firefighters immediately recognized Arthur's expertise and began coordinating with him instead of treating him like a civilian bystander. Arthur made 2 more trips up those stairs. He brought down a college student who'd been trapped in his bathroom and helped evacuate 3 more families who were struggling with smoke inhalation. The professional fire crew later said that Arthur's early intervention and rescue work had prevented what could have been multiple fatalities. His knowledge of building layout, smoke patterns, and evacuation procedures had made the difference between a manageable emergency and a tragedy. When the immediate danger was over, Arthur sat on the curb outside the building, exhausted but alert. The same tenants who'd been discussing his eviction an hour earlier now looked at him with complete amazement and respect. The young mother with 2 children approached him with tears in her eyes. She knelt down beside him and took his weathered hands in hers. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We had no idea who you really were. You saved my baby's lives today." One by one, the other residents came forward. The business suit woman apologized for her harsh words. The college student thanked him and asked about his firefighting career. Even Derek approached with genuine shame and respect. The gym clothes man, who'd been the most vocal about Arthur not belonging in the building, extended his hand for a handshake. "Sir, I owe you an apology and a debt of gratitude. You're exactly the kind of neighbor we need in this building." A fire department captain who'd known Arthur during his active years made sure everyone understood what they'd witnessed. "Arthur Martinez is a legend in our department. He saved more lives during his career than most of us will see in a lifetime. What you saw today is just who he's always been, a man who runs toward danger to help others." Derek quietly tore up the eviction notice. He also announced that the building would be covering Arthur's rent for the next 6 months while they worked out a permanent solution to help him stay in his home. But the most important change was in how the other tenants treated Arthur. The same people who'd seen him as a burden now understood they'd been living next door to a genuine hero. Arthur continued to live in Riverside Apartments, but his daily life was completely different. Neighbors stopped to chat with him in the hallways, asking for advice and sharing their own stories. Young people sought him out to learn about courage and service. The building installed a memorial plaque in the lobby, honoring Arthur's firefighting career and his heroic actions during the fire. But Arthur remained humble, always insisting he'd just done what anyone would do. What the residents learned that day was a lesson about judging people by their current circumstances instead of their lifetime of service. They discovered that heroes don't stop being heroes just because they get old, struggle financially, or move more slowly than they used to. Arthur Martinez proved that experience. Courage and the willingness to help others are qualities that never age, never fade, and never become useless, no matter what people might think when they first look at you.